Hey guys, so I wanted to show you more of a how to, not just with verbal instruction, but actually demonstrate how I use Google Scholar. And so I'll go through a couple of examples. I want to do one example for my Intro to Public Health class at ASU, and then I want to do one for my health communication class. First things first, I'll show you how I do work for my own projects. So, like you all know, oh, look, it looks like I've already asked, what is your opinion of the HPV vaccine? Fantastic. So let's say that, again, with my research being about preventing and controlling cancers caused by this incredibly common infection, human papillomavirus, if I wanted to focus, let's say, not on secondary prevention of screening, but on primary prevention. And I want to know what kind of interventions have been conducted with, say, like college students. This is how I would search. First of all, I would type in HPV vaccine, right? I've also looked at pharmacies and I've looked at Medicaid, I've looked at uptake. You can see some of my search history here. So, but I'm going to type in HPV vaccine in quotation marks because that tells Google Scholar I'm not interested in any research just on human papillomavirus alone or vaccines alone. I want to look for HPV vaccine, right? So if I were to type this, if you'll see how many results I get 45,100 results. Let's see what happens if I were to take off these quotation marks. I'd get 140,000 results, right? So again, that's a lot more than, say, this 45,100. So putting those quotation marks, again, tells Google Scholar, I'm interested in these two words used together as one term. So search for this as one term, right? So let's say I want to see what interventions there have been. So I'll type in and intervention. All right, so now we've got 19,000 results, right? So cool, we're limiting the search, right? Now maybe I want to limit it even more, and I'll say like college students, right? And I'll put them in quotation marks because I really want Google Scholar to say look for this together. Now where Google Scholar is looking for this information is not just the title of the article, but in the body of the text that you're searching for. So when I do this, now I've got 2,830. So let's say that I want to see what's been published since 2015. Okay, so I'd go to that custom range and I'd put 2015 because it's everything that's been published within the past 5 years, right? Seeing that it's 2020. Oh, look, now I've got, 1430. Let's say that I want even more recent. I'd say, hey, well, let's see what's been published since 2019. Now I've got 332. So maybe I want to see what theories they've used. So maybe I'd put like and theory, right? Or maybe I want a specific theory. I'll use, say, health belief model, right? And that will limit by this theory, right? And hopefully the intervention will have been informed by the health belief model. So now I find only 70, right? So again, this is just a means to help you limit what you find on your topic. Now I'll give you another example. So by the way, Intro to Public Health class, hopefully that's most helpful for you because it shows that's how you'd look for intervention studies. So again, like maybe I'd look for food access and food desert, right? Because I think some of you have been interested in food deserts and intervention. And maybe I'd search for the Southwest since we're in Arizona, right? So let's just see what's out there. We've got about 140 results that have been published since 2019. So let's see what's been published this year already, right? 38 results, right? So not every article is going to 100%, give me an intervention study, but it does help limit what you're finding. So you can start scrolling through and seeing, is this a way that you want to limit your search, right? Let's do another one. Let's say like shade and urban, I think heat island, and intervention. I don't know. I think some of you guys are, I think there's definitely a group that was looking at reducing heat in urban heat islands, such as like downtown Phoenix. And the interventions you were looking at included planting more trees and increasing shade, right? So this is how I would do this, right? Is I'd look up shade and urban heat island and intervention. And maybe I'd want to say like, and United States, right? Let's see if some of these are conducted in the US, right? Oh, look, learn, prepare, act, throwing shade on climate change. That looks like it's in Richmond Youth, so it looks like it's in Richmond, Virginia. That could be one of the interventions you end up reviewing for your final project. All right, so I also want to give an example for my health communication class. All right, so let's say that I'll put, I think some of you guys have looked at stress reduction. I know that's the example I gave on the last video. Stress reduction and college student. And you could use intervention or health campaign, right? Let's see. We've got one result, culture and health persuasion. So let's see maybe let's open up our search a little bit. Let's see what's been published since 2016. We've got 7 results, right? So maybe you'd want to look at some of these sites, and if information seeking versus avoiding, that looks like if this is umn.edu, maybe it's someone's dissertation or someone's master's thesis. The same thing with this other example that comes next. Okay, let's look at something else. Let's look at intervention. If we look at an intervention instead. So here you find a meta-analytic evaluation of stress reduction interventions for undergraduate, graduate students. This would be a great source because this shows you a bunch of different interventions that you could go through and say like, hey, I'm going to look at this intervention and this intervention of the many that they present. You go, let's look at it together. Hopefully we can get it at ASU. Let's see what happens when we open this article. With this meta-analysis, they're basically looking at a bunch of different intervention studies and sharing the outcomes with you. Okay, view, well, if you were to access this, what I would next recommend is, okay, this was published in 2019, 26/2. So let's look at that. All right, cool. Thanks for bearing with me as I'm getting access. Okay, this looks like this was someone's meta-analytic evaluation of stress interventions. So let's say I was going to look at the full text PDF, so the full article, and I were to look at this and I were to go down and look for these interventions that they found. So the method, they're talking about how they actually conducted a search, a systematic search for these articles, right? This shows you a flow diagram of different studies they looked for and how they decided what to analyze in a systematic way. And so if you see this chart, you could see the authors and you'd go to the reference section of your paper, and if there is a specific intervention that interests you out of these interventions, go to the reference section and actually pull that article. You can go to Google Scholar and type in, like actually copy the title of the article, put it in quotation marks, and you can find just that article if ASU has access to it. Hopefully this was helpful. Please let me know if there's anything murky about this. I can go back through and create a new video, but I just wanted to show you again some ways to limit what you're finding so that you more quickly get to what you're looking for to cite in your final projects. I'll see you guys soon.